let's make some tallow. If you missed part 1, I'll do a quick recap. I just mentioned that I get our beef fat or suet from a butcher, and I get it in big chunks, and I go into that in detail as to why in part 1. So if you are into that, you can go watch it. But moving on, I'm taking a little bit of extra time this time to measure out the fat so that I can give exact measurements to you guys in my new tallow cookbook. I'm really excited for it. So this pot holds 15 pounds of tallow, and that tallow is all ground up. And now we're going to put in 1 gallon of water. When rendering tallow, I do 1 wet render. I used to do 2, but really the way that I render tallow now is so different, and I don't need a second wet render in my opinion. I went ahead and I turned my pot on low, and I'm going to add in salt. I'm going to add in 2 cups of salt. That helps draw out impurities, and the water will help keep the tallow from cooking at the bottom. Because as you can imagine, this tallow is very heavy in here, and so if you have a lot of pressure from the tallow at the top pushing onto the bottom, it can cook those meat bits very easily. So the water is going to help us be able to keep this tallow moving, because I do not want any of those meat bits to start cooking. That smell can leach into the tallow, and then you just don't have as good of a product, in my opinion. Now remember, all of this is just my opinion from rendering hundreds and hundreds of pounds of tallow. When the tallow starts looking like this, you can see it's starting to melt. It's not even fully melted. I'm going to start straining it right now. And that's because I want to get all of the fat out before, like I said, any of those meat pieces or impurities start to cook. So you can see here, like there's a lot of tallow in this strainer that is not even beginning to melt. So I'll go ahead and I'll fill this strainer, and when it starts to slow down in the straining, I'll just dump it back into the pot so it can melt again, or melt at all. And I will warn you, this is the longest process for me for tallow making. This part takes hours. And you can see I'm straining this right back into another pot. So here, see how it's melting there at the side? That's going to strain a lot easier than, you know, the bigger pieces. But really, we just want to get all of that out. And you can see here, see those little pink pieces? That's little bits of impurities that if left in the pot to cook would start to smell like beef. Strain all the way to the bottom, and here you can see the water. That's what that gray stuff is. And you can see here, those bits were starting to cook. So once I see that they're starting to cook, I stop pulling tallow out of it at all. And here's what's left in my strainer. You can see there's still a lot of really good tallow in here. That's not going to go to waste. I go ahead and I save all of that, and I will keep rendering that down, but I render it separately, and I use that for cooking for my family. And you can see here in the pot, there's still a little bit of tallow skimming on the surface of that water. We're going to keep rendering that. We'll save it. Don't worry. It is not going to waste. But back into the pot for that. And now we're going to do the second render of this tallow, and that will be part 3. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.